So I am interviewing Amanda Moon, the owner of Amanda Moon Photography. She is my boss. We work together doing photography. So give a brief overview of what we do.
So I am a photographer and I photograph mainly weddings, engagements, family sessions, portraits, things of that nature. And I hired Ainsley over here to assist me during my jobs.
Let's go over for how me and Amanda met in the first place and how I made that connection to then network in a way and also make a new friend.
Yes. So I went into Nirvana.
That's my place of work currently, my second job.
Because I wanted a coffee and I needed a snack. So I literally was just like, oh, I'll have a pumpkin iced whatever. And whatever I got, a muffin. And then you were like, oh, can I have your Instagram? I was like, sure. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And then she realized that I was a photographer, or vice versa. One of us did. And we were like, oh my God, I am too. I ended up needing an assistant, so it worked out pretty well.
Yes. So I know that I personally have some strengths and weaknesses of being in the photography industry. So I would definitely love to hear what you think are your strengths and weaknesses of owning a business in the photography industry.
Ooh, okay. So we'll start with strength. First thing I will say is I tried to have a vision and a certain niche, especially being on Cape Cod. Photography is oversaturated. Everybody's a photographer. Everybody wants to be a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So my strength is really finding my own style, and something I offer is different than the person next to me. That's really important because you want to offer something different than everybody else in order to gain clients.
And it's also super important to have those differences, whether it be editing, the style that you coordinate your photo shoots, anything to do with that. Those are all big things that will draw more clients in, especially in a place that's so saturated with photography.
Yes.
Are there any other strengths that you find in the business that maybe some people won't think about?
Ooh, I feel like you have to be very organized. This job is very chaotic and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So for instance, once you get an inquiry for a client, you mainly schedule a phone call with them and then see what they want, and then you move on from there. Then you go to photographing after you're done planning. Once that's over, you're editing, you're dealing with other clients, you're dealing with other photo shoots, all these other things that people don't think about. So you really do about 10 hours of work behind the scenes. So if you just stay on top of it, you're organized and you have the right tools, that's how you're going to be successful.
I also feel like people definitely think our job is point, shoot, and you're done. Going along with the strengths that we just mentioned, what do you find as weaknesses when it comes to you personally in the photography industry?
A huge one, I will have to say, when I first started was finances. Obviously, it takes a lot of money to buy the equipment that you need to produce good content. One of my biggest mistakes, I will say, I didn't have a savings account strictly for my business. So I couldn't really see at the beginning exactly what I was bringing in and if I was even profiting at that moment. And then also not charging enough. I knew I produced good work, but I still had insecurities, so I wasn't charging what I was worth.
I would think of a beginner to be financially between $100 to $150 per session, and that's fully just any type of session. Intermediate gets more into different prices for different shoots. You can do couple photography, you can do family photos, you can do Christmas photos for other families, so that takes a little more time because you want to coordinate it around the holidays, get props and stuff like that. And then I would also argue, and then the advanced level, I would say, is weddings and bigger things and bigger groups and knowing what kind of lighting, concerts. A lot of these beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels aren't really seen to be different because people just think, oh, she does this, this, and that, so that just might mean that she's a professional.
For me personally, I started out in the wedding industry, so I feel like I was taught to keep up with the pace of all of that, but then I wasn't that great at senior pictures. So you could see me as being advanced in one area because I do weddings, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm the best senior portrait photographer or I do the best landscapes. I also, going back onto a weakness that I feel like would be beneficial for people to know. My mistake was I was giving discounts to people that I knew.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes off of being a little bit insecure in what you're doing, because you don't want to charge somebody a lot and then produce the worst quality content ever. So don't give discounts.
Not only do you feel bad for having your own insecurities and feeling like, oh, this family won't want to work with me because I charge this much, but you're also giving them so much work to give them the outcome that they want. If they scout you and they don't like your prices, then they're not for you. And you have to just admit that to yourself and to them.
Yeah, and specifically on people that you know. So like people I went to school with, they want photos, but they expect a discount from me, and I used to offer that. I wouldn't recommend doing it. I'd recommend sticking with your price, but then yet again, like if I work with a couple for an engagement session, I'll give you a discount on your wedding, something like that.
Right. What is your definition of an entrepreneur?
Somebody that has a vision and they chase it. I don't care if you're bad at what you do. If you have a vision and you take action and you're finally producing things, good for you. That's really what matters. So they put in the action, they end up producing. At least you're hustling, and the universe responds to action. So that's all I can say.
That's a huge thing, because I feel like people that I know have picked up a camera and been like, wow, I really like to do this, but I don't even know where to go from here. Or it's too expensive for them financially to upgrade and like move on to what they actually are passionate about. But I feel like taking the risks is a huge thing, especially in photography, because it is a risk to buy a new camera that's $1,000 to $3,000. Like that is a huge financial burden. But if you're so passionate about it, you would save up. You would take the time and effort to even rent cameras, reach out to people who do have more advanced cameras and use them.
To go off of what you were saying, you don't need the best equipment when you're first starting out.
Right.
Because really what you're doing is you're learning how to go about it. You're learning like the concept of it. You're learning how do I position things? What do I take photos of? You're learning foreground, background, different settings for your camera. So you don't necessarily need the best when you begin, but I highly recommend saving up and getting one.
Going back to financials, what do you think is a good starting point or things that you've learned for teaching yourself financials?
Ooh, well, the first thing is definitely getting a website that can keep track of everything. So for instance, I use a website called Honeybook, and it keeps track of everything that you bring in, every inquiry, every contract you send out, every invoice you send out, everything that was paid, all of that. So I would definitely keep track of everything, as well as obviously getting a separate savings and checking for your business so you can see exactly what you're bringing in. I would save a certain amount of your check to pay yourself, obviously. For a long time, you're not going to be able to do that. So, I mean, I worked 40 hours a week plus photography on the weekends and after work and doing things like that. So I worked over a year and a half, which thankfully isn't that long, to save up and support myself. So I could finally move on and try to do this full time. So something else that I would keep in mind, especially with the business that we're in, is that it takes money to make money. So definitely put money aside for different things. For instance, when I mentioned Honeybook, I pay $38 a month to run that. So obviously if you're not bringing in $38 a month plus, don't invest.
Investments are things that you need to consider, especially with being an entrepreneur, because if it's a long-term investment, that's huge. And if you can get people around you to even help with little like bits and pieces, maybe not a subscription necessarily, but if you wanted to save up for a new camera, you could get your family and friends to maybe help you pay for that. But it is important to be thankful that your family or friends would help you pay for it, but it is good to repay them when you are making enough.
Adding on to that, when you're a photographer, you have a million subscriptions. You have to pay for editing, you have to pay for other tools, your website, Honeybook. A lot of these websites do offer referrals, so if you know another photographer that uses something, if they send you a link, you could get 20% off, things like that. So just take advantage of your connections as well. Connections are super important anyways. I mean, obviously in like your personal social lives, it's good to have connections, but especially in this business, it's competitive, but it's also great when you can collaborate with people. When I work weddings and everything, I like to hand out my business card to DJs, to videographers, to other vendors, because they could also end up recommending you. So you don't necessarily have to always, befriend the photographer. I mean, it's great, like you should, but there's other people that you can connect with as well that'd be beneficial for your business.
I definitely feel like I just connect on a personal level to learn more about myself through experiences.
And I'll have to say, she's a million times more outgoing than I am. I'm very, very shy. I will say, like, don't be afraid if you're a little bit shy or insecure or quiet, because honestly, like, you are working behind the scenes, and it's great either way. You'll loosen up, I promise. If I can, you can. One mistake that I made when I first started out on my own was that my contract was not specific enough. You need a specific contract, believe me. You want your clients to be on the same exact page as you.
I know there was a time that someone had requested for you to do a different style than what you normally do. And if they're hiring you, they're also hiring your editing style and just the way that you do photos.
And I'd like to say that's a great point. I actually just put that into my contract, that you are hiring me based off of my creative decisions and that I will do the best I can to produce the best quality imagery. But that's a great point, because some people they're looking for the best price out there, but that photographer might not produce the type of photos that they're looking for. So it's really, really important, especially in the contract, so you are protected by law for things like that. When you own your own business, that's the last thing you want to deal with is an unhappy client.
I think another thing that goes hand in hand with communication is communication with your clients when you're literally at the photo shoot. So saying for someone to go to the left, to the right, go up on this area and not, especially for the story we're about to tell, we're just prefacing that this was a growing experience. This has nothing to do with how we feel about the clients. They were lovely people, and we just chose it as a good way for photographers to use it as an example to communicate.
To get right into it, I got an inquiry about a proposal from the mother of the soon-to-be bride. Everything was great. She was amazing, her sister was amazing, but they did all of the communication for the groom. So they arranged literally everything, between phone calls, what she was going to wear, the timeline, the day, and I even went to the location and took pictures of where exactly everything was going to take place, because it's a proposal, so you have to be hiding. You can't be out in the open. We were literally hiding in bushes.
I will insert pictures here. I will insert photos right here.
So you want to be very clear. So we had amazing communication. I truly loved them as clients, and like I would totally work with them again. I took pictures. I drew little X's of where I was going to be, where Ainsley was going to be. But my mistake yet again was that the fiance, the groom, the male, he was not involved whatsoever. He was just told what to do instead of me talking to him one-on-one. Now we will get into the day of.
The location was on a beach down on Cape, and it was a very small beach. There was one jetty, and behind the jetty was a forest where I was, and I was hiding in between some bushes, and Amanda was further on the other side of the jetty behind a tree.
We were supposed to photograph them getting engaged, and I kept looking at my watch. A few minutes go by. It's a really, really, really small beach, so I'm like,
where are
they? Like, what's going on?
We wanted to get a very raw and authentic reaction of the proposal happening. From where I was, I could see the boardwalk where you could walk down and see where the clients would be walking up to the jetty.
I had a longer lens, so I was farther away, and I had the best shot of where the proposal was supposed to take place, and I had Ainsley stay back a little bit closer to the little boardwalk she was talking about so she can get the girls' reaction to being proposed to. But time was ticking and they still haven't arrived, and I was getting confused, and all of a sudden I see Ainsley book it so fast towards me. Her, like, there's a camera in one hand. She's like, oh my god, they're like, run. Like, she's just telling me to run for my life. And thankfully I listened to you. The groom, he was told what to do, but he got a little bit nervous and went in the opposite direction of where we were and proposed. and
We missed it.
we captured about 4 solid photos
Yes.
of the actual proposal. The couple was so nice, and honestly,
They were amazing.
it was really nice because they ended up having that intimate moment for themselves. Like, they were cool with it. Everyone was happy. We reenacted it. I mean, that's why, getting back to in the contract that you have, that photography is a very fast-paced profession, so we cannot guarantee you the photos that you are hoping for.
I think it's very important to note that your photos are not guaranteed to be exactly what you want them to be, whether that be editing or legitimately what we're taking photos of. My final question for you today is, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
1,000,000%. If you were to ask me that 2 years ago, I would have said no.
And why?
Because truly, like, I have grown so much from the beginning, like my first wedding till now, and I really had a solid vision for myself, and I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to put my focus on. And once I started taking action, I developed my own website, I started communicating with people, I worked a lot for other people. That is very, very important. So I was building those connections. There's a point in time where I was like, you know what, like, this is realistic, like, I can do this. It's not the most this is a weird job for the everyday person. But you can make it work. I put action towards it, and I'm finally profiting. So,
yay! Thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Thank you
and
for
I
having me.
appreciate it. I hope that some of you can learn things from this, from both me and her especially. And maybe you can try out photography for yourself and continue your entrepreneurial endeavors.
yeah, please reach out to Amanda Moon Photo on
Promo.
Instagram. Check out my work. Also, if you are interested in learning the ropes about photography, please reach out to me and I will teach you.
Yeah. Okay. You're fired.
I'm like, fired.
Damn it, all my questions are on my phone. Kind of an idiot.
You should send them to me.
You're a genius. I should wear my boots.
You should wear your boots. Okay.
This actually is, what's it called?
What?
What's that word called?
What?
Like, oh my god, I can't remember.
Oh.
Interrogation.
Oh.
She's sass.
Sorry.
For the agency that we're
This whole video is gonna be cut. Like, every single.
It's gonna be like, I'm like trying to make myself not look like an idiot, but I just realized that I have sunglasses on and it's the middle of the night.
Shut the fuck up.
Anyway, I
Oh my
can't.
god.